Please indicate that you can see my screen. You can see my postman.
Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay, thank you. I was saying that get request retrieve data from the server, while post create data. So the data that you want to create, you have to put them here. You have to like indicate them and tell the server that okay, oh, the name of the gadget I want to create. We say post request is create, right? It's Apple MacBook Pro 16. I'll try to put 20 and it's year 2020. And the price is 1849. CPU model Intel Core i9, hard disk size 1 TB. So the next thing now, so you as a tester, this is one of the things we'll be doing. And you try to do some edge cases that what if I don't send the name? What if I don't set the year? What will happen? Will it give me error? Will it still go through? These are the things, different scenarios we'll be testing as a tester. So this is where your curiosity will comes in, your creativity, and other soft skills as a tester. So I'll click on send and we'll see what happens. So you can see 200, which means, okay, request successful. The server has responded as required. And you can see the time it took almost immediately. You can save the response. Now you can see the ID. You can see that I didn't put ID here when I was creating it, right? Yeah, server returned the ID. Now the name, Apple MacBook Pro 20, which is what we created here. Created at time and date we created it, then the data, the year, the price, basically everything, garbage in, garbage out, everything we send to the server, it returning back to us and added the ID and this created that. So the people that this is the work of the backend developer. If you hear backend, web development, backend people are the one that develop this API and based on what they define, the logic they define, that's what is returning all these things. So now let's try to create another one just for testing purpose. I will say the SPS and I'll put the year. I'll change the price. So I'll send the request now. You can also save because all the changes you make, you need to save them. So save, then I'll send the request. And as you can see, the LSPS, the year, the price. So now I want to do something. I will clear this the LSPS and see what will happen. I will clear the year. Hmm, 0. Let's see what will happen. It also went through, which means the data has not been validated. So these are one of the things that you observe as a keyway. Yeah. How can I be able to create a request with empty name, no validation that, oh, this thing. So basically, it can cause data integrity issue. And when you created request with no name, so how do we know that this is the name of this thing now? All this kind of thing. These are one of the things you report as a QA that the data should be different. If I also clear this, will it go through? Yeah, of course it went through. Now that's for post requests. There is also another kind of get request where you are not trying to get everything. You are trying to get a specific one. So I'll try to simulate that now. Hold on. I will add a new request. So add request. Let's see. Get. So I was talking about params the other time. So params also like it means parameter. So you can see it has key and value. So the key here is ID and the value is 3. Another ID, value is 5. Another ID and the value is 10. So you can see them here. After this question mark, ID equals to 3, ID equals to 5, ID equals to 10. So if I send this request, it means that I want to get a gadget of which ID is 3, which ID is 5, which ID is 10. I'm not trying to get all of them like this one. This is literally everything that I try to fetch here. So here, I'm trying to just get like 3 of them. So if I send the request, I'll save. You can see of ID 3, ID of 5, and ID of 10, which is Apple iPhone 12 Pro Max, Galaxy, iPad. So basically, you're already doing API testing doing this. You will simulate different things. You will edge cases. What if I don't put any ID? What will happen? What if I put ID that does not exist? What's the response? You will observe all these things. And you can 200 status code. You can save your response. So that's that for just getting one using the ID. Now let's try to do put and patch before our times run out. Okay, that's getting object by ID. So let's do single to just get only one using the same ID, but just one this time around. I will do the same thing. I will add request. I'll come here. I'll say add requests. It also gets method. And mind you, if you are sending the wrong this method here, instead of get, if you put post, it will return error. Trust me. We will try it now. So we are trying to get object with ID of 7. If I send the request, what will happen? You can see ID of 7, Apple MacBook Pro 16. What if I put post here instead of get? What will happen? Let's find out. You can see 405 method not allowed. So this is HTTP status code. What did I say 400 status code means? It means client error. 400, like generally 400 means client error. There's error from the client side. If you remember when I said that. So this is one of the 400. And I mentioned that we have 400, 44. So this 405. Method not allowed. Simple. Use of the request method is not allowed on the resource. So we change it back to get. So if you are doing your testing and you see this kind of scenario, you should know what's going on. Now you do your validation. Based on that, you've read the documentation and the requirements. You know what this thing is supposed to return. You know that okay, we have a name, we have the year. If there's something based on what you've read and you see that it's not here, Maybe the currency, you have to note it and put it as part of your bug. Maybe based on the requirements that you've read, there's something that is missing. You have to observe as a QA, like observation and attention to details is like your primary skills as a QA and your communication skills. You observe, you pay attention to details. Details as tiny as dots. You have to pay attention to it. That's why you're a QA, and that's why they hire you. So I want to do some more examples, as more example as possible. And we do put and patch, then we do delete after. So put means that we are updating the, let me just, before talking too much, again, I'll say add request, and this time I'm changing the method to put, and I'm pasting my API link here, and I will come to body because this is put. We are trying to update something. So let me just copy it from here. Mhm. Okay. So when we get a request here with ID of 7, you can see the response. Apple MacBook Pro 16. So I want to edit it now. We try to change it to Pro, let's say 21, for example. I will rename my request and press enter. So now you can see that I toggle this thing to raw. So by default, it will be in none here. So I'll navigate to this raw. By default, it's in JSON. I'll leave it in JSON and I'll paste my request body here. So this is also called payload. Note that. So I'll try to modify it. You know that when we send the request here, you can see it's Apple MacBook Pro 16, year 19 and everything. We'll try to update it. From 16, we're updating it to 21. And I'll change the year to. You can also change the price, 2000. Intel Core i7. And let's save it. Let's save our request and I will send it. You can see 405 method not allowed. So this particular endpoint is not allowing us to do put. Let's try patch and see what will happen. Same thing, which means we can't perform this. 7 is a reserved ID and data object. It cannot be overridden. Okay. So let's come here. The one we created by ourselves. Now let's create another one. Let's say we are trying to create Apple iPhone 13 and the year is, I don't know, let's say 2022 CPU model. Let's say Intel. And let's put this as 128 gig. So I will send this. You can see created successfully. So yeah, I'll copy this payload and try to edit it. I was now the ID, this ID, I will copy it. These are some of the things you can automate so that I don't have to be doing manual copy and paste. But those are really, really advanced. So I'll paste that ID here and I'll try to send the request and see what happens. You can see it went through 200. Okay. So if this ID is not correct, it will not go through. Trust me. You can see the error it gave us the other time. It said we cannot override that one with the ID of 7. So we have to create our own and we copy the ID here. That's how we're able to update it. Now, instead of Apple iPhone 13, I will say it's 14 and change the year to, let's say, 23 and send it again. You can see it's updated. Apple iPhone 14, 2023. So, like that, like that, like that, like that. You try different scenarios. You must have written your test cases and follow your test cases through. Next week, we'll talk more about test cases. How many minutes more do we have? Okay, let me try to do delete. So, the same thing, I'll come here, I will say add requests, and I'll change the method here to delete. And I'll paste it here. I'll change this ID to the one we created ourselves. So for a delete, we are not sending anything, but it based on the requirement of the API you are testing. For some API, it might be required to send some things. Just follow through. But for this one, we are not sending anything. It does not require anybody. So I will just click send. As you can see, object with ID so has been deleted. So if you try to update that same thing after you deleted it, you see here, you see that it will give us error. Let's see. Can you see? File for not found. The object with ID so doesn't exist. Please provide an object ID with exist or generate any objects. Blah blah blah. And some of these error response too, some of them are not this detailed or they are not straightforward or confusing. These are some of the things you observe and tell your backend person and report as a bug. When there is an error, the error should be clear enough. So that is it for API testing. There are other areas I would like to introduce you to in Postman, but they are kind of advanced. There is variable, there's environment. So when you are testing, there are different environments. Depends on your organization. But the idea, like the general one, there's development environment, also known as dev environment. There's staging. Staging is like mirror of production. And then there's production environment. Production environment is live environment. Like that software you are using on your laptop, on your phone, they are on live environment. That's why you have access to it as a user. So on staging is like a mirror of production environment where what is on staging should be what is on production environment, and what is working on staging should work on production environment. Then there is dev environment. So when developers, backend, frontend, when they push stuff, that is development environment. That's like their own playground. They can do whatever it is, experiment there. So that's that for environment. You in your own Postman too, you can simulate that because just because we got this API online, in actual real life scenario, there's something we call base URL. So this base URL will be changing based on the environment. So you can create an environment and call it, let's say, dev environment, env for short. So there you can add new variable. You can say base URL, and you can put default value here. So initial value, let me try to copy this. What is here? and I'll try to set it as a variable. Yeah, so I will save, always save when you make changes. So for variable, you have environment variable, you have global variable, and you have collection variable. When you say global variable, the variable is like you can use it everywhere. You can use it in all your collections everywhere. When a variable is collection variable, so like that folder now that I created the other time that I called testing, this is a collection. So if you create a variable and you say collection variable within this testing, you won't be able to use it in this task manager. This is another collection on its own. I hope you know what is a variable because I'm assuming you know what is a variable. My God. You can find out more about variable. And there's global. So when a variable is global, it means you can access it in everywhere, whether environment change, whether in any collection is global. So back to the environment. Now we now have def environment and we created this variable. Let me rename it and I'll save it. So you can see this plus. I can create another one. I can say staging. So all these things will actually make your testing easy. And you can come here and you can say staging. Depends on all the variable you'll be needing. That's what you'll be creating. This is just an example. This URL. And this is just like introduction so that you can build on it later on. You can find out more. Can, of course, it will not be the same thing. I can change this to staging instead of the dev, and I will save. So now, when you are doing your testing, you can switch environments. Can you see my cursor? If you are following my cursor, you can see no environment here. If I click this drop down, see the environment I just created, dev environment, staging environment. So I can switch to dev environment. Now, if I come here, the variable I created, I can use it here. So if you want to use a variable, I'll try to clear this thing. I've already set this thing as a variable, so I want to use that variable instead of using it directly like this. I'll clear it. And if you want to access a variable, you will use your curly braces, two of them, two of them. As you can see, it's changed. So I'll try to type the name of my variable as I call it dev underscore base underscore UR. You can see that it's red. That's because you can't find that variable. But when the name is correct, to change. Can you see it? So if I click it, although it has already been deleted, so there's no point. To definitely return error. Yeah, object entirety doesn't exist. Of course, that's correct. Now, that's where I'll be stopping for today. And any question? Question, question, question.
Hello,
Okay,
hello, sir.
all right, I can hear you.
Yeah. Thank you for the great lecture. We really appreciate, sir.
Yep, you're welcome.
Um, my concern is us get is the downloading and installing of this Postman.
Postman. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know why my own is not working. Don't know if you can help out, or maybe if you have the file, maybe you can share it for us so that we can just download it straight away.
Uh, I can't really send the file, but I can send the link.
Link, yeah.
postman.com/download, and you will select your operating system. I'm sure you are using Windows. So you have to,
Yeah, I think I reached that around that site, but it's still not working. But shall let me just try it again. I'm hearing
okay, so you will have to sign up using your email. Let me send the link to the group chat, to the chat.
you. Okay.
Yeah, I will send the link to some tutorial for Postman where you can continue your tutorial as you ask Michael. Yeah, I'll suggest some materials for you on Postman, on API testing generally and Postman testing. Yeah. Daniel, can you see the link I sent? So any
Yes,
other question?
for the download, right?
Yes.
Yes, I've seen it.
Okay. So any other question? Do you understand? Okay, then
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for this wonderful class for today. So, my question is this: as a software tester,
yeah.
are we the one to document all this postman documentation or the backend? Because now you took us through the post, the get method and all of those things.
Yeah.
Are we the one to, document all of these things, or the backend already have all of these APIs there on the postman? Ours is just to test that um base URL or the API for a particular feature, maybe is successful or not. So that's just my question.
All right. Thank you very much, Jennifer, for that question. Yeah. Based on the structure of your organization, but generally, it's the backend guys that should document their APIs. So you just go to the documentation, you know that, okay, this is what this API is supposed to do, and this is the method that is allowed. Yeah, it's the backend guys. That's their own job.
Thank you.
Yeah. So any other question? I think we have less than 2 minutes. Okay. If there's no other question, I think we've come to the end of today's class. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you for listening. Bye. I'll see you next.